Okay, so today I'm going to talk about synapses. So what is a synapse? A synapse is a place where a neuron makes a connection with either another neuron or with an effector like a muscle gland, a muscle cell or a gland cell. So on one side of the synapse, we have our presynaptic terminal. You can see it right there. And on the other side, we have the postsynaptic terminal, which is right there. Now, what these two cells are, these are big words. Basically, the presynaptic terminal is the place where the signal comes from, and the postsynaptic terminal is the place where the signal goes to. So, as you can see from these diagrams, there are actually different types of two different types of synapse. There is the chemical synapse on one side and a electrical synapse on the other side. Just draw a line down there so you can see sort of the difference. So you can see there's a fair difference, and the chemical synapse is more commonly found than the electrical synapse is. So how does transmission occur? So as I've said, transmission can occur through either this chemical synapse or through the electrical synapse. In a chemical synapse, there's a small gap, which you can see right there. That gap is called the synaptic cleft. And what this cleft raises the issue of is, well, how does the signal coming from the presynaptic terminal get to the postsynaptic terminal? So I'm just going to give you a brief overview on how that happens. So you can see inside the presynaptic cell, we have right here something called a synaptic vesicle, and there's a bunch of those in there. So what's inside these synaptic vesicles? All these little red dots you see on here, well, they're all neurotransmitters. And these neurotransmitters they stay inside these vesicles until an action potential reaches, basically until a signal reaches the presynaptic terminal and tells the cell, okay, now you have to release these neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft. And so what happens when these neurotransmitters are released is they flow across the synaptic cleft and they flow through to these ionotropic receptors. Sorry, that's a big word to say. So yeah, they flow to the ionotropic receptors, and there's a little section where these neurotransmitters bind to, and they basically open these ionotropic receptors. They're basically a gate, and this gate is designed to allow the ions, positively charged ions, usually sodium or potassium ions, and it allows them to move across this gap into the next nerve cell so that you can keep the signal flowing, you can keep it moving. So in maybe simpler words, what a chemical synapse does is it uses the incoming signal to tell it to release this special transmitter, this neurotransmitter, to open a gate for the ions so that the signal can continue moving either from the brain to the muscle fiber or gland cell or vice versa. So that's chemical synapses, which are more common. The electrical synapse over here, as you can see, is considerably different. There is no synaptic cleft in a electrical synapse. The cell membranes are in direct contact with one another. And what this does is it allows the current to flow directly from the first neuron into the next. So you can see here there's the two arrows, and the signal can move either way quite simply. It can move through that way or it can move through that way, and it doesn't have to wait for a for a neurotransmitter to bind and open a gate so that it can flow through. So an electrical synapse moves a signal quite a bit faster than the chemical synapse. So what's the goal of of transmission across a synapse. So the goal is quite obviously to transmit the signal coming from either your muscles or your glands or wherever it's coming from, and to move it along to your brain, or to send a signal from your brain to wherever it needs to go. And so what this is this is the action potential. This action potential, it starts off the signal, um, whether it be through something such as a pain stimulus, or through something in your brain telling you to release a certain hormone, or something in your brain telling you to move a certain muscle. It's the action potential. And the goal is to get the action potential to flow through the presynaptic cells on both sides, to move along, to keep the signal flowing. So that is transmission across a synapse.